The countdown continues for Chicago Bears training camp, less than a week away before they hit the field up at Hallis Hall, and it is ready and raring to go. We're talking defensive side of the ball today after covering the offense last week on our previous episode, and we're here to talk all things Dennis Allen and the shiny new toys on the defensive side of the ball that are going to be in Bears uniforms this season. Welcome in to the Bear Report podcast. I'm Steven Johnson. He is Zach Pearson. And Zach, not only do we get to have the fun to talk about the defense, we also have a few more guys that are going to be suiting up and being a part of day one of training camp at the rookie level, which has been a little uneasy, to say the least, really, across the entire NFL.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, that probably took a mental break from things, which bravo. Everyone needs that from the NFL a little bit as we ramp things up. But yeah, I mean, essentially, the Houston Texans made life easier on themselves, made life harder on the other 32 teams. I guess 30 because the Browns got one of their guys signed. They agreed to a fully guaranteed contract with wide receiver Jaden Higgins May 8th, right after the draft. The first ever non-first round pick to have a fully guaranteed contract to be drafted like that. And it just pretty much, forced other teams to have to rework some things in the language with second round picks. I mean, obviously you see this with first round picks because of fully guaranteed money, but now with second round picks, I think going into today, there was 29 of the 32 that were unsigned, which is a crazy number. Now, the Bears got the deal done with Shamar Turner. They got the deal done with Audrey Trapillo a couple hours later. I think there's still like 26 now or something like that. I think 3 of them signed today. But yeah, it's tough, but it's good for the Bears. They have 2 signed. 1 more second round pick needs to be signed in Luther Burden. But, we don't know Turner's deal, the specifics yet, but we do know Trapillo was 4 years, 2 of those guaranteed fully. The third year, 72% fully guaranteed.
Kind of a weird number.
Yeah, we were joking about this on radio today. Why wouldn't you just go like 75 or even like 70? Like, what point does the agent stop at? Especially, and it's a good point they brought up. It was the Spiegel and Holmes show. It's like, if you're Ozzie Trapillo's agent, your guy is in the mix for the starting left tackle job. And if Braxton Jones is not healthy when camp opens up, which, it's a possibility he's on PUP. It's a possibility a couple other players could be on PUP. We don't know. That doesn't mean they missed the whole season. They could come back anytime.
Right.
If Jones isn't there, come Tuesday when the Bears hit the practice field or Wednesday, Audrey Trapillo is going to be left tackle 1 to start camp. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious on how those negotiations went. But either way, good news for everyone is that 2 of them are signed. They got to wait for Luther Burden now. And Burden's kind of the tricky one because I believe who's the Saints quarterback who's the Saints quarterback that was drafted? Oh man, I'm blanking on his name.
Tyler Show.
Yeah, I believe he was taken like a pick after or pick before.
40th. Yep.
Yeah,
right
and so he was 39th. Houston's wide receiver was 34. So there's 5 picks right there that Luther Burden has some leverage on. I'd imagine Burden's probably going to be over 85% fully guaranteed, which is shocking, but this is going to be the new thing in the NFL, and you're going to kind of see it trend more and more. So, yeah, no, that's some, and that's not even the biggest contract extension that happened this past week. Ryan Poles gets 3 years added on to his deal, and he's aligned with Ben Johnson now for 5 years.
Gives some vibes to the years of Nagy and Pace.
Oh God!
When they aligned those deals, and we all know how well that worked out. And I think there were honestly quite a few people that were scratching their heads over the fact, does he really deserve that extension given what the record has been with Ryan Poles at the helm? And I think there was a lot of talk when he first came in that the Bears had already kind of limited their head coaching search. So this was really the first guy that Ryan Poles has had full autonomy over in hiring. And so that played into it. But again, we're here on what seems like the 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th, one off season, quote unquote, but no on-field production coming out of it. And at some point, you have to ask yourself how many more of these feel good off seasons can you string together without seeing that production on the field. And yes, things look more optimistic than they ever have been, but that's also not a reason to sit here and say, you know what? I know we signed this coach to a 5-year deal, so let's match you up with it as well. When mediocrity has been the name of the game for Ryan Poles and what he's been able to do with this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point that's there is like now you have to show this on the field. You know what I mean? Like the timing of it's pretty interesting. He had 2 years left on his deal. They wanted to extend him 3 years now, so now it's 5 years. But you got to see the results in the field. Yeah, like you can say, oh well, he blew it up, from the start. But I mean, the Minnesota Vikings, look at the path that they've taken, and look, they essentially blew it up almost, not fully to the extent the Bears did, but they hired their GM, they hired their coach in the exact same year, I believe, right, as the Bears did. And while it wasn't a full rebuild, they kind of rebuilt on the fly, nailing draft picks. Sure, it helps having Justin Jefferson, but like free agent signings have been good. For the Bears, it just you go from 3 wins to 7 wins to 5 wins. You have the number one pick twice. Now, one of them is not your fault. It's because you made a fantastic trade with the Carolina Panthers, but you have to see results in the field. And I think if like things go south this year again, and you're sitting at like 6 wins, and then next year you're struggling, it's going to be a really, really bad look for the Bears with the Ryan Poles extension. And I guess I do see both sides of it. I do see the timing is very kind of I see that the Bears, are saying, all right, Ryan, we believe in you. Here you go. You got your coach, you have your quarterback, you have these pieces. It's time to go. Like it's prove it or you're out the door in a couple of years. So hopefully he proves it.
Yeah, and even just kind of rubbing salt in the wound as well, because Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the GM for the Vikings, a guy that interviewed for the
Yeah.
Bears position as well, coming from Cleveland, whereas he was before Minnesota, and it just seems like time and time again, there's been this uh, just step up in, like you said, everything they've done on the fly, and it's just hit after hit after hit, making Sam Darnold look like a competent quarterback for the first time in his NFL career when it looked
Yeah.
like he was going to be a bust. And, now we get to see JJ McCarthy and whatever he does end up becoming. But yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to see if we finally see everything come to fruition with this team. And it's funny because having 2 years left, that's really the timeline
Yeah.
where if this isn't ready to go in 2 years, he's out the door anyway.
Yep.
So why just hand that money over if we do end up 2 years from now saying none of this worked? It just, the money doesn't make sense to me for how they lined it up. I don't care if the head coach is set for 5 years. The head coach is going to be the same way. They're not going to deal with two,
Yeah.
3 years of it or 4 years of it if it's going to be this way. He's going to be out the door. That's been the cycle for the Chicago Bears, is firing these guys when they have a year or 2 years left on their deal, because frankly, it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
It is truly unacceptable, especially with the way they've been hyping up the fan base. But
Yeah.
I'll try to be optimistic about
Yeah.
it.
I mean, that's all we can do. Like if this doesn't work out, I'm convinced that like it's just never going to work out. Like I feel like for the first time in a long time, they have a quarterback prospect that should work out. Like it's almost like, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it's like this guy's got to work. Like this is your
Yeah,
generational type prospect. You have a head coach who you went and spent the money on, and he's the next big thing. And you have a GM who, yeah, I mean, to me, obviously the verdict's still out on him. I think because he's made some pretty bad moves. He's also made some good moves. Um, he's aggressive, I think, which can be a fault to him. The Chase Claypool trade,
yep.
but it could be a benefit for him making that trade to Carolina. and getting that number one pick again, and getting DJ Moore, and Tyreek Stevenson's part of that deal, and eventually you're landing Gervon Dexter and guys like that. So yeah, I feel like it's a line for them to be fine. Does it, if it goes south this year, do they clean house? No, I don't think they clean house right away. But like, if we're starting to go south, like I said, go south next year, and it's bad. I think we'll see the same cycle again. So I don't know. I mean, to me, it was kind of clear they weren't going to move on from Poles after this year. But I'm a little surprised right now with this extension,
Yeah, it's
or at least the timing of it.
yeah, the timing I think is the weirdest thing for me. If
Yeah,
you're gonna do it when the coach is signed and not 6 months later.
yeah. Or wait. I mean, even wait in the season. You could do it in the season
That
too.
too. Like, see some progress. That's all we
Yeah,
need is some progress. But
yeah.
apparently somebody at Hallis Hall likes what they see with everything that's going on, and we're just gonna hope for the best. And when it comes to hoping for the best, the defensive side of the ball, definitely a work of a lot of improvement needed, I guess is the best way to put it, where the team, one of 7 teams to allow more than 6,000 yards against last year. Not great whatsoever. They gave up the 6th most yards, almost 6 yards per play. 3,700 of those through the air, and then on the ground, not stopping anybody, giving up the 5th most rushing yards in the NFL. So setting the stage for, you got a bunch of playmakers, or what you believe are playmakers, especially in the secondary, and you shore up specifically the defensive line. And let's start there, because I feel like that's kind of the cornerstone to what they've been able to build. You look at Montez Sweat here, the trade from Washington 2 years ago. You bring in Dio Adangbo in free agency. You bring back Gervon Dexter at tackle, and then you bring in Grady Jarrett as a veteran presence at tackle, a high motor guy that is very much not your prototypical defensive tackle by NFL standards, but setting those up with your 4, looking at the second string group, Austin Booker coming back for another year on his rookie deal, Shamar Turner, like we just talked about, getting signed to his rookie 4-year deal. Andrew Billings in the middle as well. And you still have Zach Pickens doing whatever Zach Pickens has been doing in a Bears uniform, along with Dominique Robinson. Again, another guy that a lot of promise, a mid-round pick a couple years ago. And I think to what the defensive line was versus what it looks like now, at least on paper, okay, but still not there.
Yeah, I think that's more the pass rush, right? Like I
Yes.
think the upfront, like Grady Jarrett's obviously an upgrade. Getting Andrew Billings back and healthy is an upgrade in itself. Like if you watched last year, Gervon Dexter had a stretch of 4 games or 5 games where he looked like he was on his way to a Pro Bowl, and then after that it just declined because Andrew Billings, was out. He missed what 14 games, 13 games with torn pectoral.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's, and then Shamar Turner is a rookie with a lot of promise. I think it's the edges. Like that's my biggest weak spot in this defense is where are they going to get this pass rush from? Like, even if Montez Sweat gets 10 sacks, gets 11 sacks, 12 sacks, we saw that one year, and the pass rush still, struggled opposite, of that. So, I mean, you're relying on a guy in Deo who, the production isn't fully there. You're giving him a lot of money. He has to go out and produce. You're relying on a guy like Austin Booker to develop over, an off season. And then, when you talk about Zach Pickens and Dominic Robinson, those are guys that are be fighting for spots at the end of the roster. I mean, that's just plain simple. Like they have a lot of work to do going into this training camp. So I do agree with you. Like I think up front, it's just kind of besides the, the nose tackles and on that defensive line. It almost feels like that defensive line, the tackles are going to have to be, the guys inside are going to have to just dominate. And I think it's possible. Like I think Dennis Allen is going to have a plan for what he wants to do with Shamar Turner, what he wants to do with Gervon Dexter, Andrew Billings. Grady Jarrett. They're going to see a lot of different looks because now you have 4 guys I think that can play up front. You might even see Turner kick outside a little bit in pass rush situations. You might see Sweat kick inside. I mean, we just don't fully know. But I mean, I think stopping the run has got to be the full priority. Like looking at last year, they struggled to stop that run. You go back to that San Francisco game, man. 49ers ran the Bears
It was
simply, the
bad.
defense quit. They quit in the first quarter. They quit. I mean, who was it? Was it Isaac Garendo?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I knew that the 49ers had like 4 running backs because everyone was getting hurt. But I mean, Garendo, every time he touched the ball, it looked like it was, or felt like it was up the middle for 20 yards, 15 yards. And yeah, it got ugly early. So that definitely cannot happen again this year.
Yeah, not at all. And really, you look at the new blood that is now in this locker room for the defensive line. A lot of it is more athleticism built players instead of your prototypical edge or tackle that's the line stuffer. Grady Jarrett, you're not going to find more of a high motor guy in the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yep.
Dio Adangbo, again, you look at his papers, you're not going to see a ton of what is going on there. But last year, 3 sacks, 17 quarterback hits, and 42 pressures. So I mean, he's getting to the quarterback. He's just not getting there fast enough.
Yeah.
Spending last year and the previous seasons with the Colts, he hasn't missed a game in 3 years. So the durability being there as well for him. So there's an opportunity to tap into a 25-year-old defensive end that it kind of reminds me of what the Bears did with Akeem Hicks out of picking him up. I believe he was with the Patriots before, or was it the Saints? I can't remember if it was Saints or the Patriots. One of the
He
two.
was. I believe he came from the Saints, right?
Saints. Okay.
He was
Um,
with the Patriots too, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it was just both. Who knows? Whatever. But at the same time, it was a guy that really hadn't reached the full potential, and I think what the Bears are banking on is something similar in that regard, where the motor is there. There's certain aspects that pop up on the tape, and you hope that pairing him with a significantly better secondary than what the Colts had is going to allow him to finish the job because the secondary is going to be able to cut off those routes and not leave those receivers open on those pass plays. He's definitely the most polarizing, I think, of this entire group, all things considered, because of the money that was attached to him. A lot of people thought the Bears overpaid him for what it was in free agency, but at the same time, what's your backup plan without
Yeah.
spending an early round pick on a defensive end that I know a lot of people wanted to have happen? If it wasn't going to be Colston Loveland, that it was going to be a defensive end. Bears fans, just be happy that Shamar Stewart is not a Bear with everything that the Bengals are currently putting up with, and looking like he just might not play in the NFL this year. He might just go back to Texas A&M and say screw it. So I mean, there's this opportunity for Dio to prove a lot of people wrong, but at the same time, I can't help but feel the Bears are going to be active on the late preseason market once cuts start coming out. I know people keep yapping about Trey Hendrickson. I'm done with it. I don't want to
Yeah,
hear
that's
it
fine.
anymore. It's not happening.
Did you see
Uh,
what TJ Watt got? Trey Hendrickson's gonna
oh
get,
my
yeah. I
gosh.
mean,
The highest paid player non QB in NFL
e-
history
ever, right? Yeah.
ever. Just wild numbers. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Probably deserves it,
TJ
but
Watt deserves it. If he
yeah.
is healthy, he is one of the best, if not the best, defensive player in the NFL. But for a guy that has led the league in sacks the last 2 years, the Bears cannot afford that type of situation, for as frustrating as it may be for Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. And especially now that, his new counterpart, he ain't coming.
Yeah.
with everything that they're struggling with. So it's just a messy situation all around. That's definitely not going to be the case. And then the question becomes, who could become available? Yeah, obviously there's going to be the vets. There's going to be those surprise cuts here and there, and the Bears will be active on that wire. That I don't doubt for a second. I really don't think there's another position that makes sense for them to go. Maybe running back. I don't know. But,
Yeah.
outside of that, there really isn't another position where the Bears need to say, okay, here's what we need to look at. Here's what we need to fill up on. But I think for what Dennis Allen brings in this high octane defense and the blitzes and everything that goes into really putting significant pressure on the quarterback, that this is a good start in terms of the athleticism that this team has. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Dennis Allen too. Like, I think that's an immediate upgrade. That was
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite hires of this offseason. It's like not only did the Bears go out and get, Ben Johnson, arguably the best coaching prospect out there, they paired him, with a guy on staff who is the opposite of their offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle. Like he's older, he's experienced, he's had head coaching stints in the NFL. That will help as well. I mean, he's not going to sit there and tell Ben Johnson what to do, but he can offer in, input on challenges and game day strategies, kind of things like that. And he's a guy who's proven, like, yeah, on the defensive side of the football, he can be a menace for opposing quarterbacks. Go look what he did with Tom Brady when he was with New Orleans and Brady was with the Buccaneers. He's going to let his guys play man to man. He's going to let them play physical. We'll see some blitzing. I don't think it'll be as much as we saw or kind of expect it to be, but he's going to use that physicality. They certainly have a type. I'll say that
Yeah.
when you bring up they definitely have a type, and what they want to fill in Dennis Allen's defense. So I'm excited to see it because I think he's a guy that can totally fix his defense, and you're not going to get away with giving up on plays. Someone like Shamar Turner, you're not going to get away with letting your emotions and getting a 15-yard penalty. Dennis Allen put his ass on the bench, if he has to. So I like it. I think, I do think the Bears are in better hands now with Dennis Allen. I'm excited to see, especially at training camp, like these battles, what he's going to do with the defensive line, the different looks he's going to give. It's going to be good. And, especially that front seven, too, with those linebackers, with Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, it should definitely benefit them to have a better front four up there, or front five, or whatever, up there to help them. Because when the running game is getting to that second level and those guys have to make a lot of tackles and plays like that, it gets tiring, man. It's not ideal for a linebacker. So yeah, it definitely starts up front. And I think, that could kind of transition to like the strong point of the Bears defense is their secondary. And, all offseason, Dennis Allen, when they're talking, and Ben Johnson, they're talking about, yeah, we have to get pressure on the quarterback, and we have to, get to the quarterback and take away things for the quarterback. And that starts with up front, but it's also the secondary too. Good coverage in the secondary opens up, the quarterback's got to hold the ball a lot longer, and that gives guys up front the chance to win as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned front seven. Let's shift there first to the back end of that front seven. TJ Edwards has been just a fantastic middle linebacker in terms of being that tackle machine in the middle of that defense. One of Ryan Poles' better signings for what he's been able to do, picking him up from the Eagles. You have Tremaine Edmonds. Chances are this might probably will be his last season in a Bears
Yeah.
uniform, barring something crazy happening or some type of contract shift, extension, and reworking to knock his cap number down. And then you have the strong side linebacker. You lose Jack Sanborn, everybody's favorite white linebacker, the Bears and their good old strong side, Hunter Hillenmeyer, everybody else that's made their way through there, that's just kind of been the hoorah rah guy, and enter a unique camp battle. Probably the one that's most up in the air in terms of who's going to do what between Ruben Hippolyte II and Noah Sewell.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of hype around Ruben Hippolyte. for whatever reason. And I know he had a pretty darn good career at Maryland. He's a little bit undersized. And then you have Noah Sewell, who is year 3 now.
Yeah, year 3.
So something to prove.
Yeah.
And, this is the opportunity. This is really a wide open shot that, outside of what we'll call the left tackle position, the only other major position battle on this team.
Starting wise, yeah, right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, yeah, Hippolyte, you could see like, he made some plays in OTAs and minicamp, but like the one thing we keep forgetting, and the one thing I think we gotta realize is you can that's fine. There's no pads though either. You look a lot different in pads than you do with the pads on. When you're in training camp and that offensive line's got the pads on and a big offensive lineman's coming at you in that second level and can hit you in training camp, it's a lot different than going essentially through the line, not being able to be touched, or put to the ground as much. So there's nothing against him. I'm sure he could be a fine player, but I gotta see it in training camp before I'm ready to be like, okay, this guy's gonna be the starting, third linebacker. With Noah Sewell, I believe he's only played on 2% of defensive snaps in 2
Yeah.
years. Um, but he was also behind Jack Sanborn. He was also behind Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. So it is a prove it year for him because it's a guy that, coming out of high school was a pretty top big recruit. And, if he would have left Oregon a year earlier, he might have gone higher in the draft. He stayed and the stock kind of, went a little downhill. But either way, I mean, it's not a position where you're going to need an absolute star. It's not a position where, if these guys both stink, it's going to mean your defense is bad. I think it's more of a bonus position in my eyes. And I think honestly, like if Dennis Allen wants to, you could use both guys in different packages. Like if you have a third down passing situation, you want to blitz, Ruben Hippolyte's probably your guy with the speed or maybe to cover a running back out of the backfield or a tight end potentially. But if you want a run down situation, maybe you put Noah Sewell in. So I honestly I could see this battle going into the season. But yeah, I think the Bears. You mentioned TJ Edwards. I thought he played really well last year. There's a couple moments, but overall
Yeah.
he's been the better linebacker. But they got to get more from Tremaine Edmonds, in my opinion, too. Like especially paying him that money, and seeing what they could do next year, the money they could save by cutting him and moving on. Like, yeah, he's got to have a big year.
Yeah, and that was the big argument about him coming from Buffalo when the Bears did sign him is the consistency was just not there for a guy at that level. I mean, he was a first round selection for the Bills, really was meant to be that, knock him out, get after the quarterback, fly across the field, do kind of everything linebacker, and it just really hasn't resonated in the 7 years that he's been in the NFL so far. And it's tough to see because you see the athleticism and you see the flashes even, down the road in his career. And I mean, he's not getting any younger, but it's there. And so you have to hope that again, Dennis Allen being the guy that Dennis Allen is, being able to tap into that potential and that athleticism to use it to the best of his ability. It's make or break because he has another mediocre year. He nears 30. He might even already be 30 if I'm not mistaken. He's right 29, 30. Oh no, he's only 27. Holy
27.
crap,
Yeah.
he came into the league super early.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
so but I mean he's essentially playing for his final big payday this year to look at it that way. And so I think based on that, you're probably going to see maybe a little more effort out of Tremaine Edmonds and what he's able to do. And TJ Edwards, the same thing, just continuing to be that solid piece in the middle that you don't have to be concerned that you're going to get your 10 to 16 tackles a game and be able to patrol the middle. And like you said, that defensive line and not having to worry about these gaping holes in the middle of the interior line with a running back going full speed at you untouched, which happened far too often,
Yes. A lot.
that it should allow these linebackers to again play more to their strengths and be able to hit their assignments appropriately. So it all feels like it's going to come together. Again, the one thing, and you mentioned getting the pads on and seeing what Ruben Hippolyte can do. He's 5'11 and 230. Noah Sewell is 6'4, 255. Those are two entirely
Yes,
different types of
and you could
players.
see it on the field too.
Right. And that's the other thing that I'm kind of curious about here. And we can kind of use this as a segue as well, because a lot of what Dennis Allen doesn't necessarily dictate that standard 4-3 base defense.
Yeah.
A lot of the time you'll see the two linebacker set and looking at five in the secondary. And to the Bears' strength, as long as they remain healthy, it's a pretty darn good five that you can stick back there on a consistent basis to get after the ball.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, it's a good five, like you said. Like it's probably up there, right? Would you say with top in the league or close to?
Yeah, I mean, so the Bears ranked 17th in they so well we'll flip the script here. So 16th in passing defense
Okay.
last year. So middle of the pack, uh 17 passing touchdowns, which was the fewest in the
Okay. Yeah.
NFL. I don't think a lot of people realize that they were that low, but at the same time, they weren't getting the interceptions. They only had
Yeah.
11 interceptions, which was good for 21st in the NFL. So the passing touchdowns weren't coming, but at the same time, that's because everybody knew they could run on the
With football.
Bears.
Yes.
Like
And
that's part of it.
interceptions has kind of been a problem for them, feels like forever, since like that
Yeah.
2018, 2019 defense. Yeah, I mean, it starts with Jalen Johnson back there in the secondary. Like that's the guy. That's your top corner. And now looking at some of these contracts, man, what a deal the Bears got on Jalen Johnson. He's not even a top 10 paid defensive back in the league, and he's a top 10 defensive back in the league. So that's a steal. And then you look at a guy, Kyler Gordon, a guy in the slot there, the nickel corner role, who the Bears have hinted like, yeah, we might try him at some other things, some other packages, maybe potentially even safety. I believe Dennis Allen mentioned in a press conference as well. And then you got opposite of Jalen Johnson is going to be Tyreek Stevenson going into camp, but I'm a little intrigued to see if Terrell Smith could challenge him for that spot. I think, a lot of people are down on Tyreek Stevenson. I'm sorry, because of what happened last year and all that. But some things we have to kind of keep in mind is he went on a visit to Dallas before the pre-draft process. Al Harris loves him. I think that's a big factor. The second thing is he's a good man-to-man corner. I like
Yeah.
a man-to-man. And what is Dennis Allen going to let you do? Man-to-man
Man.
coverage. Tyreek Stevenson said it. Dennis Allen lets you make your money. That's how defensive backs make their money is man-to-man coverage. And then on the back end, I think the only question you're really looking at is can they stay healthy? Like Kevin Byard was healthy, played every game last season. Can he repeat that? But then you look at Jaquan Brisker, man, those concussions, that concussion history. I'm a little worried because the depth behind him is not very good. You're looking, Elijah Hicks, Jonathan Owens, and you could be looking at a safety position next year where both guys are gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jaquan Brisker's on the final year of his rookie deal. I'm probably more inclined to say Kevin Byard would probably be back if he plays well this year. He's still a veteran. I don't know if he's at.
He's getting old.
Yeah,
He's
but
getting
I just
real
don't know
old.
if he's at the point in his career where he wants to keep changing teams or I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I could see him back on a veteran on a cheap deal, but they got to stay healthy. If this unit stays healthy overall, that secondary, I mean, I think like I said, they could be one of the best in the NFL. And I'm excited because I going up against, they got the Lions with Amon St. Brown and Jameson Williams and Justin Jefferson, and you got Jordan Addison. Like in your division, you need some pretty damn good corners. So
Right.
I'm very excited to see what this unit does going into this year.
Yeah, you mentioned Kyler Gordon and the different ways that they're considering utilizing him this year, and that it's an interesting transition year, I think, if they are serious about the different ways that they can utilize him, because he's definitely not, a guy that's gonna go up against Tyreek Stevenson in terms of their styles of play. They're two entirely different types of players. But talking about Kevin Byard, and again, like you said, is it possible that he could come back? Yes. But he's going to be 32 this time next year.
Yep.
By NFL standards, I mean you're ready to ride off into the sunset more often than not at 32 years old. And for a free safety and the way that Kyler Gordon plays and the athleticism that he brings to cutting off routes and being able to read the ball, for me, that kind of screams that could be a pretty seamless transition for him, to step into that free safety role, to be the ball hawk patroller on the back end of this defense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like last year he definitely proved like he could still play. He's got to do it again this year though.
Yeah.
Um, and missing Jaquan Brisker last year really hurt them. Like that was tough. Like that was really tough for them. Obviously, with the injury and having to rely, nothing against, Jonathan Owens or Elijah Hicks, but it's just not the same. But yeah, I mean, I think Kevin Byard, he's got to show it again this year. That's kind of my thing is like I said, I mean, you make a valid point. He's 32, kind of in the back end of his career. But if he goes out and plays well this year, it just wouldn't shock me to see them bring him back for another year.
Yeah, and beyond talking about moving guys to other positions again, having him back, Brisker being in a contract year this year again with all
Yep.
the concussion problems. Dennis Allen even going as far as saying he needs to be the Swiss Army knife of this defense. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Because I I feel like anytime Jaquan Brisker does more than what's asked, then this is where we end up, is this concussion protocol where it's on a blitz, or it's chasing after a running back going out wide, on a screen pass, or just not doing the normal strong safety stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm
You really want him
curious.
doing that?
I look at it. So he essentially said, moving all things around, running so many different things, we can make it look all the same, or vice versa, things like that. He's going to put us in the right positions to succeed. I I just don't know if that's going to be something that he can do consistently. I'm not sold on that, even though he does have a lot to play for this year, being a contract year. There's just something I could sense the concern in your voice, because 4 concussions now, is that where
Yeah,
we're
well,
at?
3, I
That
believe.
that we know of, at
Yeah,
least
and 1 put you out for, you know, what,
12
13 games,
games.
12
Yeah,
games? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was bad enough where he had to go to a special doctor at what, Penn State and get it, or Pennsylvania, and get some advice. So, I mean, you know, you could tell how much he loves, he loves football. He said it killed him to be out and couldn't be out there last season. Um, but I mean, if he says he's ready to go and his health is fine, I mean, you got to trust him with that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of curious how Dennis Allen wants to use him, because I do think he could be a valuable piece, maybe on a blitz or stuffing the run. Um, he he brings a lot of energy out there. I'll say that, and his teammates love him for that. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, like he could be the biggest key this year outside of a pass rush. Just him staying healthy and being that player we've, seen him be in his career minus the injuries. Like when he plays and he plays well, he plays pretty damn well. He's not a red mark out there for you. I mean, he
right.
plays hard, and he plays well when he's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is you just want to see the full potential because we haven't seen full potential really out of this unit as a whole. There's been significant injuries that cost a lot of time. Last year, there were
Yep,
more than we'd like to admit.
yep.
Kyler Gordon's had his string of on and off injuries. Again, Jaquan Brisker, Billings last year, and the
Billings.
injury that he fought with the pectoral muscle. There's it just it all falls a specific way to hurt the Bears just enough to not allow them to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Just based on the talent and the different roles that these specific guys are playing in these defenses. And so again, being that Dennis Allen, the versatility is big. I don't know how the versatility is going to work on the back end. I feel a lot more comfortable about it with the front seven more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by like a guy like Terrell Smith too, in terms of versatility. But yeah, moving up front and changing guys up front is definitely offers more versatility. I'm just, I think the back end of that defense is probably the stronger point, but I'd say, versatility wise up front with the defensive line, they can obviously do a lot of different things. Now it's just, can Dennis Allen get this all to work and put it together and have them gel? Because they're in a tough division and you're going to need a good defense to stop some of these offenses you have in your division and the NFC in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also specific things that you look at the deeper metrics for what the team was able to do a year ago, where as long as they maintain a sense of consistency, that
Yeah.
they can improve significantly.
Yeah. They
It's
should.
not like the overall breakdown of what the defense was doing versus what they were giving the offense was off by any means. They had one of the highest drive percentages resulting in turnover in the
Yep.
league on the defensive side of the ball, 13%. That's top 10. So I mean, they keep that up, and let's say they knock down the rushing yards allowed, and they get to the middle of the pack, and they shave off 300, 350
Oh,
yards.
it's a huge
I
improvement.
incredible improvement. And then all of a sudden, you're talking about a potential top 10 defense in yards allowed.
Yes.
So it's really, frankly, a game of inches is
Yeah.
what football is. And again, knowing that they didn't give up a ton of passing touchdowns, and while there were certain things that definitely led to that, they were overall pretty disciplined, even though at times it didn't seem like it. They only had 20 first downs as a result of penalty, which is also kind of shocking. Middle of the pack on penalties overall. And so I think with a more disciplined coaching staff in place and being able to put better schemes that put these players in a better position to utilize their talents, there is opportunity here for this to be a significantly improved defense on paper.
And that should be the goal. And that is the goal. Like we
Right.
shouldn't expect anything less. Like this should be a top 10 defense, in my opinion. They have talent all over this defense. I think the only thing that's going to hold them back is if they can't get to the quarterback, or if Montez Sweat's hurt again, or he doesn't produce and Dio doesn't produce. Like they have the talent to be a legit, a top defense to at least put you in a position where you're going to be in most of your games. Like you're going to have a shot at most of your games. And,
Yep.
I think it's going to be on the offense to go out and win you those games. This is going to be a defense where, we saw in 2018 or 2005, 2006, where 2010, or maybe where they're going to win you games. I don't know. Maybe they might get you one or two, but this is a defense. They're going to keep you in a lot of games, and they have talent to kind of change things in games and be game changers. But you're right; it should be an improvement, man. It absolutely should. With what they've invested, with the hiring of Dennis Allen, it has to be an improvement this year. Otherwise, it's a failure in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to even just tap into more of as long as that improvement occurs, you're going to see improvements in certain categories that were not bad last year.
Yeah.
Points allowed, the Bears were 13th at 370. 13th after all the stuff
Yeah.
that happened last year. Turnovers, they were 11 or tied for 10th in takeaways. I
Okay,
mean,
well, that's actually a
think
little
about that.
shocking.
They
Yeah.
were a top
It
10
doesn't
team
feel
in
like that.
takeaways last year. It
It does
didn't.
not feel like that at all, no.
So again, it is all there. It's just finish the job
Yeah,
and get your assignments in
and, like
line.
well, here's the other thing with that, it's like, what happened last year overshadows everything
Yeah,
in terms of the Hail Mary game, it should never have happened, and then you come out with your coach essentially tripling down on it, and the next week you have no confidence in anything, and you get blown out by the Arizona Cardinals, who,
right.
could be a good team this year. They're not a contender by any means last year or anything like that. Like they'll probably be better. It could be better. You get blown out on the road in San Francisco, but at that point, you're pretty much done. You're looking forward to vacation. That last game of the season was Green Bay. They played hard because it was Green Bay. Like you know how much it means to you in having a season like that. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, even like Thanksgiving, they came out and fell behind early, and the defense played awesome that second half, and the coach essentially lost you a game. Minnesota, the defense plays bad. The offense comes all the way back. Could have won that game. You lose against
Blocked
Green
field
Bay.
goal.
Yeah,
Another
you
blocked
lose
field
against
goal.
Green Bay, like on a tipped field goal. So I think a lot of things that happened overshadowed some of the good.
Yeah,
But there was some bad from the defense too. Like they
there
did,
was.
yeah. So it's not like everything's perfect, but I agree. Like this has a chance to be a really damn good unit now. It should
100%.
be. Should
Yeah,
be.
it should be. There's no excuses at this
Yeah,
point
not at all.
for what the team has become this offseason. Again, maybe defensive end.
It's gonna be the pass rush that's gonna hold them
Yeah,
back.
yeah. I
It's
mean,
it's
that's gonna be one of those things. So maybe Dio Adengbo is an incredible find. I'm not on that wagon
yeah,
yet. We'll find out if we all get there at some point. But optimism ringing true nonetheless in another Chicago Bears offseason with rookies reporting to training camp Saturday. And then on July 22nd, the vets show up. So we are less than a week, just a
yeah.
couple days away from it all
Uh,
happening. The
Ryan
first public
Poles,
practice
Ben Johnson
Friday.
speak. Yeah. Yeah, Ryan
So
Poles, Ben Johnson speak on Tuesday. Close practice Wednesday, close practice Thursday, open practice Friday.
it's all going to come very, very quickly. And before you know it, we'll be talking preseason game number 1. But we're going to be
Oh
back
man.
next week
Yeah.
to talk Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles press conferences off the start of Bears training camp. And we'll see what they have to say. They got to start talking ball at some point and getting a little bit more specific with the hints that they're going to drop, or at least you hope that that's the case. But we all know Ben Johnson's going to give us some type of gold in some way with
Yeah.
what he brings to the microphone. So, looking forward to it either way.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Less than I actually saw that less than 4 weeks till there's a preseason game, I believe, right?
Man,
Something
it's
crazy like that.
yeah, it's going to come quick. It's going to come quick, and I think there's the last two preseason games are in 4 days. So
Yeah,
it,
they do that
it's
stupid Sunday, Saturday to Thursday or
Thursday.
Friday, or I think it's Friday this year, whatever. No, they got a Sunday night game, then a Monday or a Friday game. So
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, under 4 weeks, man, and these practices will go by in training camp.
They absolutely will, and we'll see what Ben Johnson has up his sleeve, and Dennis Allen as well on the defensive side of the ball, and we'll be here to cover all of it with the Bear Report. But that's going to do it for this defense preview episode of the Bear Report podcast. We appreciate all of you tuning in and listening or watching. If you're over on YouTube, we do appreciate it, and we'll be back next week talking the opening of Chicago Bears training camp. Should be a fun one. So, until then, for Zach Pearson, I'm Steven Johnson. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will talk to you next time right here on the Bear Report and bearreport.com.